Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. We are joined by our friend Dr. Audie Gaddis, who is a clinical psychologist, licensed, of course, and also clinical neuropsychologist. And we're excited that he's back with us today to talk more about, anxiety, kind of where we left off last week, but all the work that he does to help so many people with psychotherapy, psychological therapy services, online, via telehealth, and so much more. So, first and foremost, welcome back. How are you?
I'm fine, Jill. How are you?
I'm great. Would you mind just saying hello to our listeners, please, and tell us a little bit about what it is you do?
Hello, listeners. I am Dr. Audie Gaddis. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and neuropsychologist. My practice is located actually all over Virginia because I do telehealth. But I reside in the beautiful Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. Live outside of Harrisonburg, and which is a great place. All the cities I've lived in my life, this is the one where I can enjoy the beauty of the outdoors. So it's a great place to be.
Got it. Well, thank you for being here. And I know you've done a lot of work and research and loneliness. We've talked about that. We talked about anxiety. Give us a little recap to our discussion last week. And I have to thank you for that. Both of us coming clean with our own anxieties and knowing that I'm not alone. You're not alone, even as a doctor, right? As a mental health professional as well.
Right.
It's something it's okay to suffer with. If you're out there today, it's okay.
Right. And without spending too much time on recapping, what I want to do is basically say that anxiety is your brain's natural response to perceived fears.
Mm-hmm.
It perceives some danger. It perceives something's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It has a foreboding.
Yeah.
And so that's when we start feeling the anxiety. Anxiety is the brain sending a warning to the rest of our consciousness and our bodies that things are not right. However, back in the early days of humankind, when anxiety was helpful, say, in keeping us from being killed by the saber-toothed tiger,
Mm-hmm.
it no longer has the same necessity as it once had.
Got it.
So, however, the brain hasn't really got that message. And as a
Yeah.
result, numerous people suffer from anxiety. And I would venture to say that at least at one point in a person's life, they will experience some significant anxiety. Some of us experience it on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
And in my presentation last week, some of the responses I got from people was, yeah, that's great. What you said was helpful, but what are some practical things I can do right away when I'm feeling anxiety?
Yep.
Not everybody are in a position where they can pop a pill to relax them.
Yep.
And there's a lot of questions as to whether that should even happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the anxiety just feels too much, and there's got to be some things we can do. And so what I do with my clients is I tell them we're going to build a toolkit, a little invisible toolkit, and you can imagine like attached to the side of your pants or something that you can carry with you and you can access at all times.
Yeah.
Depending on the severity of anxiety, some of these people are accessing it several times a day.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about just some regular things you can do when you're really feeling anxiety. I'm going to start with some of the ones I like the least, but they're effective.
Got it.
And so the first thing that if you're feeling intense anxiety is short circuit the central nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, One way we could do that is sticking our fingers in
Yeah.
an electrical outlet.
True.
That would kill us really quick. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's not a wise way to do it.
Yep.
But one practical way we can do it without harming ourselves is grab 2 handfuls of ice.
Mm. Okay.
Grab that ice and
Interesting.
hold that in your hands,
Okay.
like I'm showing you now. Hold it in your hands as long as you can. Squeeze it tight.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. And then let go. Give it a minute. Do it again. Do it at least 3 times. What is that? What that's doing is the portion of your brain where anxiety comes from
Mm-hmm.
is getting a contrary message. It's getting interrupted with these the nerves picking up the ice, the coldness, the uncomfortableness of it, and it has to attend to that. So it has to let some of the anxiety go so it can function on relieving your discomfort.
Ah.
That's why I say do it 3 times. And you hold it really as long as you can, hopefully at least 30 seconds. Some
Okay.
people have to work up with that. I
Okay.
have one client, he says I have one client, he says he's up to 5 minutes holding the ice.
Wow.
And I said, that's too long. You should be doing, let it go, picking it back up.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I said, don't get frostbite. And don't blame me if you get frostbite. The second thing, which is uncomfortable, but it's another shock to the system, although increasingly I'm running into people who do this for skin reasons, is take a cold shower. If
Mm-hmm.
you're able to, you're not like at the office, but you're at home, take a really cold shower.
Okay.
And at least 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's uncomfortable. And I can say it because I take cold showers. I started off as a person who really loved hot showers. Gradually, my dermatologist was saying, stop taking hot showers, you know, take lukewarm to cold showers. And I gradually made it to warm, then I made it to lukewarm. Now it's cold. It's not a long shower, but it gets me clean. But for anxiety, having that shower hit your body in such an uncomfortable way is going to distract your brain
Yeah.
to focus on the problem at hand.
Okay.
Those are the toughies.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do those and it makes your anxiety go away, great. There are some easier ones to do you
Okay.
may want to try first.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is deep breathing.
Okay.
Breath work is so important because what it does is it puts blood and oxygen back into your brain. When we are having a lot of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
our brain is sending the blood and the oxygen to our limbs, to our arms, to our legs. Why? Because we may have studied this in school. That's where is that part of the brain where fight, flight, or freeze takes place. Think of freeze as the panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting back at that saber-toothed tiger, or running from that thing, saber-toothed tiger. So the anxiety, that's the reason why we sometimes get stomach cramps
Yeah.
and even some chest cramps. We don't have sufficient oxygen there because it's sending it all to our arms and legs so we can be ready to save our lives, which in most situations we encounter nowadays, we just don't run into many saber-toothed tigers, and we don't need that.
Yeah.
Our brain does that, however.
Yeah.
So breath work will get the oxygen and blood back to my brain where it belongs. And here's a
Okay.
simple way to do this. Take one hand, put it on your abdomen so you can
Mm-hmm.
feel it,
Okay.
on your tummy so you can feel it, and then inhale for 4 seconds.
Okay.
1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Just inhale and then hold it for 4 seconds. Now, the next part, you're going to exhale, but it's going to be slower. You're going to exhale for 6 seconds.
Oh,
So that is longer than the inhale. So you have to consciously, uh, you got to consciously feel the air coming out. Now, the reason why you put your hand on your abdomen in the first place was so when you were inhaling, you could feel it coming out. And the reason why you keep it on is when you exhale, you can feel it coming out, but you've got to control it. And as you control it, you simply imagine yourself relaxing. I
mm,
I sit, it's not really the ideal chair for the kind of work that I do, but it works. It's a relaxing chair. It's one of those Barca lounger types. I had this imagery when I do this, and I do it every day before I start work. I do it at least 3 or 4 times. I imagine myself just relaxing so much, my muscles are relaxing so much, my body is just sinking into the chair.
yeah.
I have my arms on the armchairs, except the one on my stomach, and I inhale through my nose, I exhale through my mouth. So do that when for my anxiety clinics. People are told to do it at least 5 times a day to
Okay.
start off with. Now, when you think about it, that's 14 seconds a cycle.
Oh, okay.
4 seconds inhale, 4 second hold, 6 second exhale. That says 14 seconds. So in a couple minutes, you can do this 5 times.
Okay.
Uh, and what it does is the reason why you do that, and I encourage people sometimes to get in front of the mirror and do it, are twofold.
Mm-hmm.
One, you want to train your brain, you want to what they call habituate your brain to go there as a default, to see the breath work as something it immediately goes into.
Okay.
By training for it 5 times a day, at least for 8 weeks, you will be so habituated to that you'll find yourself doing it and not even aware that you're consciously doing it. That's
Wow.
how habituated our brains can become to that. But it takes at least
You
eight
gotta you gotta
weeks
practice. Right. Yeah,
daily
yeah.
practice. Yeah. 2 minutes, inhale through the nose, hold that for 4 seconds, then just hold it for 4 seconds, and then exhale for 6 seconds. It is quite effective. But when you're exhaling, again, imagine your whole body going limp. It's
Yeah.
just going limp. Now, what we're trying to do is, let's say the anxiety is this high. These are management skills to
Mm-hmm.
help manage the anxiety. They will not
Okay.
get rid of the anxiety. But if I can bring it down somewhat, I can manage it. We want to bring it down to a level where you feel that you can tolerate it.
Ah,
That's all we're trying to do. So that's what we want to accomplish through the breath work.
wow.
Now, the next one, remember good old Socrates?
Yes.
Well, he wasn't an expert on anxiety, but his whole idea of Socratic questioning
Yeah.
is another tool we use to manage anxiety. And that's where we start challenging irrational thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
such as uh, we ask a question, is my thought based on facts or feelings?
Ah.
Is what I'm fearing, is that something I know for sure is going to happen?
Mm.
Or that I just fear that it will happen?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's a definite fact. Anxiety often imagines worst case scenarios. that never come about. This is where I'll make an admission.
Yeah.
I suffered for years of what's called the Sunday scaries.
Oh,
Sunday, the day before work, going
the
back to
anxiety
work
before
around
Monday.
the afternoon.
Ah,
Yeah,
I can
it
empathize.
starts to kick in, and I would just feel awful.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated that part of the weekend.
Mm.
Uh, it would be so bad, I would cancel activities we planned because I was just too overwhelmed by my anxiety. So I started doing the Socratic questioning. Is my thought based on facts or feelings? Do I really think something awful is going to happen to me Monday morning? And here's the thing. Here's the facts of that. So far in my life, nothing bad has ever happened to me on a Monday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other days, yeah, but on Mondays, no.
Good.
It's like I'm expecting to be fired or something. I don't know. I expect maybe there's a grizzly bear in my office, but for some reason, as soon as I walk into my office and turn on the light, that anxiety's gone.
Mm.
So all that anxiety I had was based on false feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Next question I asked, how would my best friend see this situation?
Ah.
I asked my wife when I was really working on the Sunday scaries, I would ask my wife, is there something terrible that's going to happen tomorrow?
Mm.
Are we going to get a volcano,
Yeah.
earthquake, things going to
Yeah.
blow up? And am I going to suddenly be out on the job? Are they repossessing our house tomorrow? Of course, none of that would happen. Another
Mm-hmm.
question is, I asked myself this, how likely is it that this fear will come true?
Yeah.
Now, when I get to Sunday scaries, I go right to that question, actually. How
Okay.
likely is it that my fears about the following day will come true? Well, it's highly unlikely,
Yeah.
highly unlikely. To help me with this, I would write down what the fear was, and my wife would make a $5 bet with me that it wouldn't happen. So not only every Monday was I realizing my anxiety was, well, it wasn't going to accomplish anything. I realized on Monday I owed my wife $5 because nothing bad ever happened. Uh,
Uh-huh.
the final question I ask clients, and I get them where they actually they journal with these questions. If my fear comes true, will it matter in a week? Will it matter in a month? Will it matter in a year?
Mm-hmm.
So if I fear I don't get that job I'm hoping for, and let's say it doesn't come through, does that mean that was the last available job on the planet?
Mm-hmm.
And of course not.
Wow.
I had a friend call me and they were panicking. He was panicking. Uh, I had to have him do the ice thing several times before he could really even talk. And he was so counting on this job because it meant so many positive changes. And he got word that he wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
They weren't going to offer it to him.
Mm.
And I asked him, I said, will that matter in a week, in a month, in a year? And of course, right then he felt, oh, of course it will. And I said,
Mm.
well, let's see. Within 3 days, he was offered a much better position.
Mm-hmm.
So then I asked him, I said, does all that worry about that job you were hoping for, does
Yeah.
that really matter now? And he said, no, it doesn't matter. The last thing, do we have time for one more?
Go ahead.
Okay. is imagery.
Mm.
Uh, when I have anxiety clinics, we'll
Yeah.
take a few moments. I'll ask him, I said, think about what you're seeing around you. Look at the different people. Look what's going on. What do you notice in the distance? Look for details that you would typically miss. Then what sounds can you hear?
Yeah.
Notice any unusual sounds, any sounds that you typically may not pay attention to. I'm
Yeah.
I'm frequently surprised because I have a morning meditation routine.
Okay.
I'll hear the most bizarre things during that time that I never hear any other time. I don't know why. I guess it's because I'm just a deep meditation, and then these intrusive sounds come, and I don't know where they're coming from, but they're
Wow.
gone. The other thing is eating and drinking.
Yeah.
Take time to savor the flavor. Take time to pay attention to what you're eating. I tell people when you're having anxiety, that's the time when you count out your chews.
Yeah.
Take a bite, you chew 20 seconds. And as
Yeah.
you're chewing, you're paying attention to what it feels like in your mouth, and you're taking attention to the different flavors and what you can pick out. I have a friend, he can take a bite of food and he can tell me just about every ingredient. I can't do that, but he can do that. And he actually does it to help him become more mindful.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to what you feel. There's so many more I can share. If clients will email me, or I mean, if listeners will email me, I hope you become a client. But if listeners will email me at Dr. Gaddis, Dr. Gaddis, just one word, Dr.
Perfect.
Gaddis, at
Mm-hmm.
mypsyconnect.com. That's my MYPSY connect.com. I will send you a list of these skills that you can do. And I think you'll find you're able to bring this anxiety down to manageable levels. We're not about curing anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
That will only happen when we die.
Yeah.
It's about managing it until we do.
Yep. Beautifully said. Thank you so much. All right. Well,
You're
always a
welcome.
pleasure having you here. Excited that you're back with us. And, just the breathing technique. One more time, remind me, we breathe in, hold it for how long? And then what's the exhale one more time?
I inhale through my nose for 4 seconds. Just a 4 count. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I hold for 4 seconds. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. And then with my hand on my abdomen, I should have said at the beginning,
Uh-huh.
I exhale for 6 seconds, a little bit longer. If you finish exhaling before 6 seconds, you're doing it too fast. You go to 7, 8, 9, you're going a little bit too slow. So 6 seconds is the operative number there. And with your hand on your abdomen, you can feel it going in. Just like when you inhale, you can feel it
Yeah.
coming out. And you feel it as you exhale as well.
Ah, perfect. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure again having you here.
You're so welcome.
All right. Thank you again for everything. And we'll talk again hopefully next week. Thanks so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.